What's up? I'm AJ Ramos, and this is the very first episode of the Locker Room Podcast. And I am pleased to be joined by Jerry Hairston Jr. Man, I appreciate you being on this, man. This is amazing. And how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Hey, I appreciate that you're having me as your first guest. So I guess that makes me the leadoff hitter. So I'm excited about that. First of many episodes for AJ Ramos, man. I'm excited for you and your broadcast career.
Did you ever hit leadoff?
Of course, I had laid off. So you
Yeah,
saw me
yeah.
when I was old and washed up. So I really couldn't run anymore. But I let off, when I was younger in my career.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is a space that you're familiar with for sure. I want to get into it, man. When I was reading up on your career, the one thing, so I knew your career and I knew who you played for, but one thing that I didn't know, and I don't know how I didn't know, but your family and how historic it is. I mean, what does it mean for you to be part of such a rich baseball legacy, especially when your family made history by being the first three generations of African American family in Major League Baseball? Like, what was that like growing up in those times, man?
Well, you know what? When you're growing up in it, you don't really realize it. For me as a kid, 6, 7, 8 years old, that's just something that my dad did. That was his
Mm,
job. I loved his job, and I wanted to be just like him. I think every boy dreams to be kind of like their father. That's their
right.
first, leader. And I just wanted to be where my dad. I had a great father, still have a great father. So I thought it was just cool that, he loved what he did. He had a passion for what he did, and that was being a Major League Baseball player. So I got a chance to hang out, in big league clubhouses, and also hang around my grandfather. My
Mm,
grandfather loved being a baseball player. He was a scout when he was done playing. Was a coach for many years. He spent 50 plus years in the White Sox organization. So just growing up around in it, I saw their passion for that. So
right.
that made me want to do it. I didn't think of anything historical. I didn't think of any of that stuff. I just saw two men that loved doing what they loved doing, and that's being around the game of baseball. So I was very fortunate. I had great men in my life. My grandfather was definitely a unique individual. You mentioned being a third generation black player. My grandfather played in the Negro Leagues. He played against guys like Josh Gibson, Satchel Paige,
Man.
Double Duty Ratcliffe. He was the first black player to play for the White Sox. So I was very fortunate. And as I got older, I started to realize what that meant. But as a
Right.
kid, man, that just meant I was around the game of baseball, which I loved. And I was very fortunate to grow up in that environment.
I can imagine, like your grandfather and your dad, especially being one of the first, black people in the big leagues, the amount of pressure and things that they had to go through and the mindset that they had to have in order to not only play the game of baseball, but deal with all the outside stuff that comes with that. Did you pick up any tips or anything, or did they teach you anything that allowed you to develop like a tough mindset? Because you got to be mentally tough, not only just to play the game of baseball, but to go through everything that they did back then. Like, are there any key points or things that you leaned on that like helped propel you to be as successful as you are now?
Well, growing up, we'd go visit my grandfather, my grandmother, and I would listen to his stories. You know, Players back then, when they played in the Negro Leagues, obviously they didn't, it wasn't ideal conditions here in the
Mhm.
States. They were looked at as second class citizens. And as a young man, I couldn't understand that. Okay. But I remember him talking about him playing in Venezuela, playing in Mexico, playing in Cuba, and playing in other countries where they were looked upon as legends, heroes, stars. So I think not only for my grandfather, but for other black players back then, it was kind of weird for them, whereas they would be in their own country and they would be looked at as second class citizens, and then
Mm.
they'd go abroad and be looked at as kings and heroes and legends. So that shook them. But what it taught my grandfather is, you know what? I can't control how other people view me. All I can do is put my best foot forward. I'm not going to make excuses. I'm not going to be bitter. I'm going to make sure I'm going to give my family the best opportunity at life. And if I do that, then the generations after me will benefit. And it wasn't just my grandfather. That's how all those guys viewed it back then.
Right.
And we've reaped the benefit of that.
Hmm.
Guys like Jackie Robinson, Roberto Clemente, right? Pioneers. We have been able to benefit from them, and we've basically stood on their shoulders. So I think what I've learned is not to take anything for granted. The opportunities we have in this game and at life, don't take that for granted. Work extremely hard because those men and those women before us worked extremely hard for us to have the
Right.
opportunities that we have.
Right. I mean, that's something for sure that, they had to pave the path and they had to go through the hard things to allow us to just play a game and allow the game to be hard and not the life around it. And, I'm extremely thankful for those guys who paved the career for us to be able to play this beautiful game of ours. The other thing that I realized when I was reading through your Wikipedia and watching videos and everything just to get a little more prepped on this is you obviously played a lot of positions, but one of the things that I saw is like it seemed like, especially in 2003, it seemed like you were off to a great start. And then what is it? You broke your foot? You
Yep.
broke your foot, right? So with that, man, what did it feel like to you to be going off on that hot streak and feel like you got everything figured out and then you have an injury? It seemed like it happened quite a bit in your career. Like, how did you handle that, those setbacks, and how did you continue to still believe that you have what it takes, or still be motivated to continue to keep going?
I came up with guys like, David Ortiz, Torrey Hunter, Jock Jones, through the minor leagues and in the big leagues. And, Torrey Hunter at that point really started to become a superstar. And I remember him telling me in like 2002, man, these dudes can't get me out anymore. The first couple of years he was trying to figure it out with the swing. Obviously he was always a great defender, but he started to put things together at the plate and he really took off as a player. And I remember him saying that to me. And I was like, man, I want to get to that point. So I
Mm.
worked, got up at 98, up and down in 99. 2000, had a little bit of an injury. But when I got to 2003, I started really establishing myself as a player, as an everyday player. I really felt at that time I was really good second baseman, had a chance to win a Gold Glove. My speed was there. I was leading at that time
Yeah.
the American League in stolen bases, and I really felt like, dude, these dudes can't get me out anymore. That's not disrespecting the pitchers by any
Right.
means, because when they make their pitch, then you're going to make outs. That's not what I meant. Meaning, everything I can control, when they make a mistake, I'll be able to capitalize on it. That's
Hmm.
how I felt I was getting to be as a player. And I really started to take off that year. And I thought I was going to be an all star. So I really felt good about myself and the prospects of my career. And I remember I was at the plate. My foot has been bothering me for a couple weeks. And I took a swing in Anaheim, rolled my ankle over at the plate. I felt a pop. And I've never broken anything in my life, ever. And I told Benji Molina, dude, I broke my foot. And Benji's like, he was catching for the Angels. He's like,
Yeah.
bro, what are you talking about? I go, I broke my foot. X-rays, that later that day showed that I broke my foot. They had to put a screw in my foot. And the doctor told me, I hear you're an athlete, blah, blah, blah. He looked at my X-ray and instantly said, well, you're never going to run the same again. I mean, I was like, dude, he'd have to say it like that. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Yeah.
But it was very matter of fact. So after that was the first test, and it kind of started to compound because after that I had hamstring issues because of
Yeah.
my foot, and then other injuries. But I had to make do. But my career didn't go as planned. But I was very fortunate to have a long career because I was able to do a lot of things. I'll tell you another experience that really kind of rocked me a little bit. I was always an attitude is everything guy, and I wouldn't let anything bother me because I was trained that way. I
Hmm.
got to a point where injuries started to pile up. I had a really bad back injury. I had a broken rib in my back. Didn't know it at the time. In 2006 and 7, two of my worst years. And then finally, Art Howe, who was our bench coach, had a back specialist coming in Texas. And he was looking at him, and I asked him to look at me. Brings me in, and did x-rays, whatever. He goes, bro, how long has your back been hurting? I said, well, about a year and a half. He said, man, you've had a broken rib in your back. I don't know how you've been playing.
Mm.
So I had to get healthy that whole off season. And because of 2 terrible years, I had no hope, meaning no team was calling me. My career was done. So it was definitely challenging. So I go, what am I going to do? Heading into the 2008 season, I thought I made my mind over. I worked with a guy named Mac Newton who helped Bo Jackson get off, the ground with his hip, who had
Yep.
that reconstruction hip surgery. Mac Newton got Bo Jackson. Said if he can get Bo Jackson right, he can get me right. So he started to change my mindset because those 2 years, I wasn't depressed. I wasn't depressed because I was very fortunate,
Right.
with my life.
Yeah.
But my confidence wavered. Could I be the player that I always thought I could be? Or can I still have a career? So he made my mind over. I finally got healthy, but I still didn't have a job. It was March of 2008, still didn't have a job. I remember going to a movie theater, and it was probably during the day. I went to go see, I don't even remember the movie. It was March 10th. And out of the blue, I get a phone call. Dusty Baker, he was my manager with the Cubs in 2005. He goes, "Man, you're not with the team?" I was like, "No." He
Mm.
said, "Listen, we just had a serious injury to our shortstop, Alex Gonzalez. He's out for the year. We need an infielder. Can you get here to Sarasota?" I was in Arizona. "Can you get here to Sarasota in the next couple of days?" I told him, "Bro, I'm going to be there tonight. Run home, get packed up, and head over to Sarasota." Now, that flight, it was a 5 hour, 6 hour flight. I thought about the couple years that I really didn't play well because of the injury. That off season, having no one call me, no one. I
Mm.
had my mind made up. I was going to go to independent ball, work my way back. I said, I'm going to make sure I take advantage of this opportunity because I worked for 5, 6 months to get myself healthy and get my mind right. I am prepared now for this opportunity, but I got to take advantage of this opportunity. So sometimes in life, you can get second, third, or fourth chances in whatever field you have. But if you're not prepared for the opportunity, if you're sulking, feeling sorry for yourself,
Mm.
when you get that opportunity, you're not going to take advantage of it.
Right.
So I remember with that flight over, I said, you know what? I really prepared my mind the last 5, 6 months. I really prepared my body. Now I'm completely healthy. Okay. Now it's my time to take advantage of this opportunity. I had the best year of my career. I hit 326. I stole a lot of bases. I played with my favorite player growing up, Ken Griffey Jr., who was an
That's
incredible
awesome.
teammate. I was on base for his 600th home run. Got a chance to greet him at the plate, and really I took off for the second half of my career. Sometimes in life it doesn't go as planned, but you got to sometimes take another road, take a
Right.
detour, and get to your final destination.
What were the things that you did for uh, doing your mental work? What are the steps that you took to like because there were times where I think everybody has doubts, right? And it's about how you, for me anyway, it was about how I inputted that as information. You know what I mean? Like, is this valid information or is this a fear of mine? And I would sort through that and take, okay, well, this is a fear because of XYZ, and I would try to come up with ways to fix XYZ and get rid of the fear as much as possible because you can't play or do anything with fear. It's something that sets you back. So, what were the things that you did that allowed you to overcome those negative thoughts? And it's not about, oh, just think positive, thinks positive all the time, because that's not a realistic thing. No one just thinks positive. You know what I mean? So, what are the things that you did that allowed you to understand the information and give you a mindset that allowed you to overcome these challenges that were set in front of you?
Well, first of all, AJ, that is an incredible question. And a lot of people don't even ask that question. I don't think I've ever been asked this question in all
Mm.
the years. I had to take action. So during this process, I just told you the 6 months. Well, before I got to the 6 months, Mac Newton laid into me. Before he started to train me, he wanted to see where my mindset was at. He watched me as a player. He knew my father. He knew the history of my family. When I tell you he undressed me, I mean, was extremely harsh. It took probably about a week to get me. He'd say, "What do you want out of life? What do you want out of your career?" And I'd be like, "Well, I want to." I was very
Mm.
nonchalant. I was very passive. That wasn't who I was. I
Yeah.
was never like that. But he has saw me the last 2 or 3 years from afar become that passive person when it comes to my career. So when I tell you he undressed me, I thought we were going to fight. I got a little boxing background, but I don't know if you know Mac Newton. Mac Newton was a
Yeah.
black belt karate. I
I
mean,
heard of them.
that's the
Yeah.
you don't want to mess with that dude. I go,
Right.
he's probably like 55 years old at the time. He'd be a tough out in a fight. So he goes, bro, I'm
Yeah.
willing to fight you right now. We're going to fight. Okay. So we were arguing, screaming. He goes, finally, you're ready to fight. Now you're ready to fight. So
Mm,
what he had me do, he says, there's no more I want. There's no more I like. No more in that vocabulary. He had me literally write down on note cards, I am. I am
mm,
a Major League Baseball player. I am a Major League shortstop. I am a great father. Okay. I am starting to become a staple. And not only that, he had me write it on note cards, on a couple different type of note cards, and I would plaster it on my mirror. First thing I see in the morning when I'm brushing my teeth, doing my hair, I would see I am a Major League Baseball player. I am a Major League shortstop. Because at that time, I never got a chance to play shortstop in the big leagues. I came up as a shortstop, but I
right.
moved to second base. And that's something I really wanted to do. Before my career is over, I wanted to be a Major League shortstop. And this was way before I was getting any looks at.
Right.
I had no hope. So I thought for the first month or two, this is crazy, this is stupid, but I'm going to do it anyway. Bo Jackson did it, Michael Jordan did it. If they can do it, I could do it. So after about a month or two, I started to reprogram my mind.
Mm,
Reprogram my mind. And I really started to believe. So after working out with him, having that, looking at those cards every single day before I went to bed, when I woke up, throughout the day, I'm a Major League Baseball player. I am a Major League shortstop, so on and so forth. So when I got that opportunity, I was mentally ready.
mm.
I was physically ready. And I remember going, I'm going to put it on these cats. The pain that I faced the last 3 years, I'm going to inflict pain to everybody on that baseball field. Obviously, in
Right.
that sense.
Yeah.
Get there, have a great spring training. I was only there for 2 weeks because spring training's over. They're trying to make trades to put me on the team. I told them, listen, don't make any trades. Let me go down to AAA so I can play. I haven't played really in 2 years because I sat the bench. I was
Right.
hurt, right? Let me go down to AAA. Let me play, get at bats, get somewhere. They thought I was crazy. So at some point, somebody's going to get hurt. Okay, I want to go down to AAA. Let me play shortstop. They let me do that. Had a great AAA month. Hit like 420 something in AAA. I get called up to the big leagues in Cincinnati. Pinched hit the very next day. Very next day, when I got to the big leagues, I saw the lineup card, leading off, shortstop, Jerry Hairston Jr. Okay. Now I am not a crier. Okay. People that know me know I'm not a crier. I almost started to tear up right there
Yeah.
because everything that I had wanted, it was happening. But here's another thing too. I said, hey, I am prepared for this.
Hmm.
Anytime to have a parade, now I got to go. Now the work begins. And then I went on to have a great season, and then was able to play another 6 years in the big leagues.
Man, that is amazing. I think the biggest thing I took from that, I mean, all of that, definitely going to rewatch it and learn some of these techniques, but you got intentional with what you were doing. You set the intention and you said, this is what I am, this is what I'm going to do. If you don't have that set, if it's just like, well, I kind of want to do this and I kind of want to do that, like you're not, you're leaving so much space for other things to be involved in this process. But when you get intentional, the human mind starts to pick out things that support whatever it is that you're trying to be intentional on. That's why it's important about the thoughts that you think, right? If you're thinking, I don't know, hopefully I play good today. What is the hope? What do you mean hope? Did you prepare? Yeah. Okay. Did you prepare like physically, mentally? Yeah. Okay. Well, then there's no hope. It's like you are going to play good. And if you don't, then you're going to figure out why you didn't play good, adjust it, and then go from there. Because when you have all these hoping or whatever it is, you leave too much room for other thoughts to come in that are not beneficial to your goal. And I think that's what you did. And that's amazing for people to hear that no matter what field that you're in, what is it that you want to do? Get very intentional, very clear about your direction and where you want to go. Because once you set that, then your mind is trained, and you train your mind to be able to find the steps to accomplish those dreams. And from there, you signed with the Reds again in '09, I believe, and then you got traded to the Yankees.
Yep.
Now you were playing good and you were on your good roll. were they clear with the role that you would be having with the Yankees at that time? Or, what was your mindset going in at that point? Because they have who'd they have at short and second there? That Gardner there, right? Or who were the guys there?
With the Yankees had at shortstop some guy named Derek Jeter,
Yeah, Derek Jeter was there. Yeah.
and then they had Robbie Cano at second. A Rod was at third.
Yeah.
At first I didn't want to get traded.
Mm,
Because I was having a pretty good year in '09. It was a young team. I love those guys: Brandon Phillips, Jay Bruce, Joey Votto. I knew that they were going to have great careers. I was a veteran on that team, and I knew I wanted to be there to help, not just guide them, but really win, because I knew they
right.
were about a year or two away. I didn't want to get traded, but finally, Dusty Baker calls me in his office, say, "Listen, I know you didn't want to get traded, but we're not winning this year, and the Yankees need a guy." I was like, "Yankees?" Because I play everywhere. So Yankees were the best team at that time, that season. So I get traded to New York, and I'd played against the Yankees a lot with Baltimore when I first came up. They had historic teams. They had won, I think, 3 championships. I think they three-peated 98, 99, 2000 early in my career. They were just incredible teams. But when I got over there, I was so impressed by, yes, it was star-studded, so many superstars from Alex to Jajit, Mariano Rivera, Mark Teixeira. But that goal, or excuse me, that team had one goal in mind. That's to win the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, everybody's going to get their numbers. Everybody's going to do their things. From day one, when I got there, it was perfectly clear. Whatever you need to do to win, you do. So when I got over there, they didn't have to tell me my role.
Right.
I knew that I wasn't going to start ahead of Derek Jeter. I wasn't going to start in front of Alex, but I could spell them. What I mean by that is Derek could DH one night, I'd play short. I'd play third one night, and Alex Rodriguez would DH. We wouldn't lose much defensively. I could still be in the lineup, and then they could take their rest a little bit that night being a designated hitter. So I thought it was a perfect situation for me being a part of that group, that organization. It was one of the best experiences of my life. Us going on and winning the World Series. We just had our 15th year anniversary there. They brought us all back. It was
That's
great
sick.
seeing the guys. We had a great weekend, but it was a special group because a group of superstars with everybody has an ego. Okay,
Right.
they're going to have
Right.
an ego, but they always put their ego to the side for the betterment of the team. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to win, and nobody remembers you if you don't win.
Right.
So they had a great understanding of that, and it was just an incredible experience.
I bet you still get love in New York, right?
I do.
From being on the World Series team, man, that's got
I
to be
do.
awesome. I saw you got the key to the city as
That's
well.
right.
Dang, what
That makes
doors
me
you been
above the
opening up?
law. That makes me
Yeah.
above the law. So I better not say that these days. No,
No, no, no, no.
we all got the key to the
Yeah.
city. I mean, the mayor, after the parade, gave us the key to the city, the World Series rings, everything, and like I said, that fan base is crazy about their Yankees. And you know what? No matter where you travel around the world, there's always a Yankee fan there. When I went on to play for the Padres, the Brewers, Nats, Dodgers, I'd be, in Cleveland somewhere or in Seattle, you'd hear a fan, Jay Hair, thank you for the Yankees '09. The fans remember, man. So it
Yeah.
was definitely an incredible experience.
You mentioned with the Brewers, you were also in the postseason with them, and you hit a double in the NLCS, correct? Would you? How do you rank that? Being able to contribute something like that to your team winning, and when you're in those modes, because you had a pretty good postseason, if I remember correctly. How did you lock in those times? Like, what does locking into you feel like? Like, how do you get rid of the situation like, oh, I'm playing in a playoff game? Because for me, anyway, when I thought about it, if I thought about closing out a game where there's bases loaded, if I pitched that situation, it can be overwhelming. But when I sat there and I was like, I just got to throw strike one right here. I got to execute this pitch right here. So, what are the things that you did to drown out the distraction to allow you to perform optimally?
When I was with the Yankees, I learned a lot. Being around Derek, Alex. I got a little bit of playing time there. Especially in the World Series, got a chance to start Game 2. That helped me really approach the postseason differently. I always thought, I'm
Mm,
going to be so hyped when I get to the postseason. I'm going to be this, this, this. I remember Derek Jeter said, remember, the postseason World Series is chaos. You're going to have a lot of media attention. Everybody's going to be watching around the world. All eyes are going to be on that game. Fans are going to be going crazy. When there's chaos around, you control yourself, right? You're under control. So play the game if you need to. I'm a high energy type of guy anyway.
Right.
I would make sure that, okay, if I'm that type of way, I want to be 80%. Okay? I want to be under control. So in that postseason 11, I had the experience I had in 09. Okay? It was a little bit of a younger team with the Brewers, talented group of guys. They had not won a World Series, yet. They knew I had won a World Series, so I knew I was one of those guys in that clubhouse that was a leader, viewed as a leader. So I had to make sure I had to be under control at all times and make sure I would help them in that department. Got a chance to play every day with them and in the postseason. And when you say locking in, that's basically what I wanted to do. I didn't want to lock in at 10 in the morning. I didn't want to lock in at 12 for a 7 o'clock game, okay? Because then I would burn myself out.
Right.
I'd make sure I get my rest, eat, think a little bit about the game. But once I got to the yard around 2:33, that's when I started locking in. Starting to focus on what I need to do. Focus on the things I can control.
Right.
Because the other guys over there are very talented. Okay? The guys you faced on the mound are very talented. He's trying to execute his game plan. So I got to make sure I execute my game plan and be ready to execute that game plan. Okay? If I'm looking for a certain pitch, I got to be ready to hit it if it's presented to me and put it in play hard. So, you have hard focus, soft focus. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be able to grind your mind all day long, because by the time game time rolls around, you're going to be gassed.
Gassed, yeah.
So you make sure you build yourself up. So when I put my headphones in for a 7-5 game, at 6:40, the switch turns on. I listen to the music, start to visualize myself succeeding, visualize me getting hit, visualizing myself make defensive plays. So when 7:05 comes around, I am prepared and I'm able to just go out and play.
Man, so that is great. So that was one thing that I learned. When I got called up to the big leagues, it was all I can think about all day. And I remember getting to the field, and I'm like, I ain't even pitched yet, and I feel like almost exhausted. Then the national anthem happened, and then all of a sudden, I got that energy again. And I thought, like, I'm gonna have to come up with a better process, because there's no way I can be locked in all day long like that. And I can imagine that, being able to lock in at certain times, like peaking for a certain time of day, also allowed you to be Jerry the dad at home and the husband and all that. When I think about my career now, or think about now, like, I didn't get married and have a kid until after I was done playing. I can't imagine, you know, the other side, like, being a dad inside of it, because I was able to be selfish. I was able to be, my day revolved around me. How did you navigate that space of being, Jerry, non-baseball player and the baseball player? How did you separate those two? Because I would have definitely had a big trouble with that.
Yeah, and you know what? And like I said, there are things that I didn't do correctly.
Mm,
That's an incredible question. I wasn't the best husband. I wasn't. When you are playing this game, even though I'm not grinding my mind, I'd wake up, who am I facing tonight?
mm,
Okay, I got Roy Holiday tonight. So, we have night games at 7 o'clock, right? So that means I unwind my mind at 11, 12 o'clock,
yep,
and I'm probably asleep by 1 or 2.
yep,
Okay, so I go to sleep probably at 2, wake up around 9:30, 10. Okay, and then when I wake up, I'd play with my kids, but while I'm playing with my kids, I still think
mm,
about Roy Halladay, what he's going to try to do to me. Now, I'm not grinding, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Because I'm mentally there, so I got to be ready to perform that night, And it did take a toll on my marriage. It did. Could I have handled it better? Absolutely,
right,
But that was my job, So, you know, some players do it better than others. Some wives are more understanding than others.
right. That's
Understanding
huge.
that, that the man, hey, this is his job. He's got to take care of that. So you listen, I did fail as a husband. That's just life. We're going to have failures at life. We're going to have failures in relationships. The best thing we can do is learn from them and try to be the best person, if you get that opportunity again, to,
Right.
I'm single. I didn't remarry, but if I ever have that opportunity again, I got to make sure I'm more present, but it's easier for me now. You mentioned getting
Right.
married after you're done playing.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the route I should have taken. You know what I'm saying? But
Well,
again, that hindsight's 2020.
well, the thing is the path is the path. There's like if I change some things, I'm thinking about things now, like hindsight 2020. I'm thinking about things that like, man, I should have done this different. If I did anything different, maybe I wouldn't have been a big leaguer. Maybe I
Yeah,
wouldn't have had the success. You know what I mean? But the cool thing about it all, and you have the mindset of that, is whatever you've experienced and been through, you're able to download that information, take what you need from it, and say, label that, all right, this, I wasn't good at this, and this, but that doesn't make me a failure. That
yeah,
just makes me not good in those moments. And when they come up again in my life, guess what? I'm going to be better. And it also gives you experience to help out anybody that's going through things that are similar or whatever it is. So, like, all of the mistakes that we made in our life, I feel like is experience to help others and yourself and grow. So, yeah, speaking on family, I saw in an interview that one of your proudest moments was being able to represent Mexico in the WBC in 2000 and whatever it was, 18, 19 or whatever year it was. They asked me to play too, but I had just had surgery, and if I could have thrown, I would have definitely done it. But I wasn't able to be able to do that. But what was that experience like? Especially you got to play with your brother, right?
it did.
Yeah, that's
You know,
amazing.
it was a tremendous experience. Anytime you get a chance to represent your family, my mom is from Sonora. She grew
Mm,
up in Mexico. And, when I told her, I mean, Scott told her that we're going to be representing Mexico in the WBC, she was ecstatic,
mhm.
very proud. At that time, I had never played with my brother Scott. Scott's 4 years younger than me. So we never played Little League together. We never played high school ball together. So we never got a chance to be on the same team. So that was special being around him, see how he goes about his business, how he
Right.
prepares in the course of a game. Me and him are completely different. He's more like my father, very stoic, very doesn't have a lot to say, but when he says it, he means it.
Right.
Very quiet. I'm more like my mom, energetic person, talking, joking, but serious when you need to be serious.
Right.
So it was cool to see him, play with him, be his teammate, and then see my mom, the look on her face, the joy, being proud, us representing Mexico and playing in the same game. Actually, I think the very first game we played, I think we're playing against the D-backs. We both homered in the game, so that was really cool. But you know what? I mean, it's something that we always cherish. Putting on that Team Mexico jersey and representing Mexico in the WBC. It's something that we have great memories of.
Man, that's awesome. And then from that, I believe you had a hip injury that was tough to get over, and that inevitably been like was start of the end of your career. What was it like transitioning out of the game, man? I mean, for someone like me, again, I was able to absorb and be a baseball player, and that was like my identity, right? And I
Yeah,
had to be that because I'm not throwing 100 miles an hour. I'm not even 6 foot tall,
yeah.
right? So like there's a lot of things that I had to overcome, that I had to really be focused on just baseball. So when I got done with baseball, the transition out of it was tough because I was leaving literally a part or a lot of myself back with the game, right? So like the transition was a little bit tough out of the game. What was your experience with that?
I was very fortunate to be around my father, be around so many different major league players. So I knew that I can't play this game forever.
Right.
I can't. So what I started to do is I started to make sure that I positioned myself the best way I could to becoming a broadcaster. So what I would do the last probably 5 years of my career, I'd go to MLB Network. I would go to ESPN and I would do shows. I'd
Mm,
get my reps in, make sure I would practice. I had a guy, Tom Sherry's my agent. We'd walk through certain scenarios. I would do stuff with him a little bit on camera so that I was prepared on camera while I was playing. So whenever I decided
dope.
to end my career, I would hit the ground running. You mentioned the hip surgery in 12. I knew that 13 was probably going to be my last year of my career. I was like 99% sure. And I went through a lot that year. I went through a divorce that year. It was my last year. We had a great team in 13. trying to rehab, trying to get on the field, trying to stay on the field because I rushed getting back because I knew it was going to be my last year. I had a really bad back that year. Funny is I feel better now, older than I did that year.
That's awesome.
Because just rushing back to play my last year. So a lot was going on in my life. I wish I would have handled certain things differently from my personal life, but again, we always learn and grow from it. But the thing I'm glad I was able to do is because I positioned myself earlier, knowing that I wanted to become a broadcaster, I was able to kind of get through that season, with a lot of different chaotic stuff going around. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And that way, in 14, I had a chance to play again. A couple of teams called me, said, "Hey, we'd love to have you." The Dodgers offered me the broadcasting job because of what I did for them that year,
Mm.
a little bit on TV, but also what they saw me do for ESPN and MLB Network.
Right.
So I positioned myself years prior to make sure I would have, if given an opportunity, I would be prepared for that opportunity.
Right.
So I was extremely fortunate. I made sure that I positioned myself, as I was playing. So I knew the last 5 years or so, my career was going to start to end. Nobody plays forever. We know that. I was very fortunate to be around my dad and so many baseball players. I knew that I'm going to have to do something else when I'm done playing. I don't care how much money you have to have purpose in life.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure I was prepared. I wanted to be a broadcaster. I wanted to be around the game of baseball. So I would do work for ESPN. I would do work for MLB Network as a player. So I would gain those reps. So when I'm given an opportunity after I'm done playing, I would be prepared for that opportunity. So, in 13, it was my last season. I could have played in 14. I did have offers, but a lot was going on in my life. I wanted to make sure I was around my kids more. I wanted to raise
Mm.
them. They're at the point they were 8, 6, and 4 at that time. I said, I got to raise my kids, man. I have to. This allowed me to be able to raise them, and I'm so glad I did that. And fortunate to be a part of this incredible broadcast team here with the Dodgers, man. Great people, a great organization, first class organization. It's the best decision I made as far as professionally, not playing another year, retiring, being a part of this great organization. I've got a chance to see my kids grow up. My
That's
son
awesome.
Jackson is in college now. I got a daughter, a volleyball player, senior in high school. I got a softball player. She's a freshman in high school. So I'm able to see them grow up. I've had other opportunities now throughout the last 11 years. I've had teams call me interested in being a manager. But at that time, I said, you know what, I can't do that because AJ, being a
Woo.
manager, man, it's even tougher than a player. You're in
Yeah.
charge of entire organizations. You have to be there, from
Even
11
just
to
even just
midnight.
being a coach, man. Being a coach,
Yeah,
you're there longer. And one of the things
yeah,
I love to do was play the game. You know what I mean? So like that seems like a lot. And who knows? Maybe 5, 10 years down the road, maybe me and you will both be coaching. Who knows? But
yeah.
that's something that's not out of the question, but not what I would want right now. The last question I want to ask you. So, looking back at your career, your life, what do you think is the biggest lesson that you learned and advice that you would give to younger athletes or anybody that is trying to become successful in whatever field it is?
I think the thing I've learned about my life, and then viewing others, viewing the Michael Jordans, the Tom Brady's, Derek Jeters. Yes, they're superstars, but I think what's common with those guys, what's common with people that have been successful. I know a lot of businessmen that have been successful. I think this word is used a lot, but I think sometimes it's not used enough. Perseverance, man.
Mm,
You got to be able to persevere. There's going to be things that are going to happen to you in life. And if you see those people that get hit hard, because we all get hit hard in a variety of different ways, do you stop or do you keep going?
mm,
I just listened to Tom Brady talk about he was like the sixth guy on the depth chart at Michigan. He was the sixth quarterback. He had to persevere, had to grind, and finally became a starter at Michigan. But then when he became a starter, he was prepared. He didn't sulk.
mhm.
Michael Jordan, he's the guy that wasn't a superstar basketball player. In fact, he thought he was going to be a baseball player. You know, he thought he was going to be a baseball player growing up.
Right.
Gets the basketball, doesn't make his varsity team. He was crushed. Did he pout? No. He got better, worked hard. So throughout whatever you pursue, you got to have perseverance, man, because you're going to get knocked down. You're going to get knocked down. I've been extremely fortunate. And there's stuff that has happened to me that I don't deserve, as far
Mm.
as the great things. I'm like, man, I've been so
Right.
fortunate, you know. But you take in what you've been given and make the most of it. If you'd have told me, at 8 years old that I'd be a Major League Baseball player for 16 years, get a chance to be a broadcaster for 10 plus years for the Los Angeles Dodgers, get a chance to act on a great show, Shooter. Watch it. Netflix is on Netflix. You
Okay.
know, it's been an incredible life. So hopefully I have many more years in my life. But I think the key word is perseverance, man. No matter what you do, you got to be able to persevere because it's not going to be clear sailing.
Right.
You're going to have some storms along the way.
Right. Two things I heard. So perseverance and gratitude. I feel like
Yes.
those are the two big things that you lean on, and it just exudes out of you. And I think a lot of people can learn just from listening to this podcast, and it's amazing, man. And I can't thank you enough for being the very first guest of this podcast. You showed why you're a great leadoff hitter. So thank you very much again, and good luck for the rest of the season. And hopefully we will see you calling, working for the Dodgers on the World Series, calling the
I hope
games, man.
so.
That would be
AJ,
awesome.
I appreciate you having me on, brother, for your first interview. Bro, you absolutely killed it. You have an incredible future in this field, in this space, man. Wish you all the best, man.
Thank you. Appreciate you, man.